They say the first $100,000 is the hardest, and they're right. It's not just a number, it's a psychological wall, an invisible mountain, and most people never get past it. But if you do, everything starts to change. Here's how to get there faster. Saving money sounds simple. Spend less than you earn. Put the difference aside. Repeat. But when you're starting from scratch, it doesn't feel simple. It feels like trying to fill a swimming pool with a coffee mug. You sacrifice. You skip dinners. You cancel subscriptions. You work overtime. And at the end of the month, you've saved a couple $100 and maybe. Then you check your investment app, and it barely moved. It's demoralizing. Because in the beginning, money grows painfully slow. And it's not your fault. It's how the math works. If you're saving $300 a month, even with a 10% return, it could take over 14 years to reach $100,000. If you double that to $600, you might cut the time in half, but it's still a grind. That's why this stage of wealth building isn't about returns. It's about contributions, the fuel, not the engine. Because at the beginning, compound interest isn't helping much. It's barely awake. In year one, most of your portfolio is just your own savings. The growth feels like a trickle, because it is. And that's when most people give up. They think, if this is what saving feels like, I'll never make it. But here's the thing. That slow, boring climb is doing more than you think. It's building momentum. It's setting the stage for the tipping point. Because once you cross that six-figure line, something changes. Your money starts helping. The snowball begins to roll. And it no longer feels like you're doing it alone. But before we talk about what happens after $100,000, let's focus on how to actually get there. Because while most people stay stuck, you don't have to. And it starts with the first tip. Before you invest, before you automate savings, before you build a portfolio, you need to kill your debt, especially the bad kind. Credit cards, personal loans, overdrafts, high-interest car payments. These aren't just monthly bills. They're wealth killers. Because here's the truth. If you're paying 20% interest on debt while earning 8% on investments, you're losing money every month, no matter how disciplined you are. It's like trying to fill a bucket while someone's drilling holes in the bottom. You can't build wealth while you're bleeding cash. This is why the very first step isn't to invest. It's to stabilize. List your debts, sort them by interest rate, and start eliminating the worst ones. Fast. Don't just pay the minimum. Don't wait until things calm down. Attack your debt like it's an emergency. Because it is. And yes, not all debt is evil. A student loan with a 3% interest rate, a mortgage with a 30-year fixed rate, those might be manageable. But high-interest consumer debt? That's financial quicksand. The longer you stay, the harder it is to escape. You're not just losing money. You're losing time, momentum, freedom. Eliminating bad debt isn't sexy, but it's the foundation. Because once you're out of the red, you can finally start building real wealth. And that leads us to the second tip. Saving is safe, but saving alone is slow. A savings account protects your money, but it doesn't grow it. If you save $500 a month for 16 years, you'll eventually reach $100,000. But if you invest that same $500 and earn just 10% a year, you could get there in 10 years or less. That's 6 years of your life back. Investing doesn't require a fortune. You don't need a financial advisor or a six-figure salary. You can start with $100 or even less. What matters is starting. Because investing does two powerful things. First, it puts your money to work. Second, it builds your identity. You stop seeing money as something to stash away and start seeing it as something to deploy. And here's the secret. Every dollar you invest is like a tiny employee. It shows up every day, it works while you sleep, it doesn't complain. And if you treat it right, it multiplies. That's the power of compounding. But it only works if you start. Waiting for the perfect moment to invest? It doesn't exist. There will always be noise. The market's too high. The economy's uncertain. What if I lose money? But the real risk is doing nothing. Because inflation doesn't wait. Time doesn't wait. And neither should you. Investing isn't about timing the market, it's about time in the market. So even if your portfolio looks small now, keep going. Because every contribution is building your future. And that brings us to the third tip, the one that protects your momentum when things feel slow. One of the biggest reasons people quit is because they expect too much too soon. They start saving, they invest for a few months, and when they don't see big results, they feel like it's not working. But here's the truth. In the beginning, growth is slow, painfully slow. You're planting seeds, not harvesting crops. And if you're not prepared for that, you'll abandon the process right before it starts working. That's why you need a realistic goal, not a fantasy, not a dream board, a clear, grounded, measurable goal. I want to save $100,000 in 3 years. Great. Now let's do the math. If you're starting from zero and want to reach $100,000 in 3 years, you'd need to invest around $2,300 per month, assuming a 10% annual return. Can't do that right now? Then adjust the timeline. Make it 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. Stretch the time. Don't break the goal. Because once you see the real numbers, you stop guessing and start strategizing. You stop chasing shortcuts and start planning systems. And the beauty of a clear goal is this. It gives your discipline a purpose. Instead of asking, why am I skipping this vacation? You remind yourself, I'm buying years of freedom later. Instead of wondering, why am I still driving this old car? You realize every month without a car payment is another $400 fueling my future. When your goal is clear, sacrifice starts to feel like strategy. And that mindset shift, it's the difference between giving up and compounding. Now, with your goal set, it's time to make room for progress. And that's where the next tip comes in. Most people don't fail at saving because they don't earn enough. They fail because they can't keep what they earn. It's not always about income, it's about leakage. Think of your money like water. If the bucket has holes, it doesn't matter how fast you fill it, it'll never stay full. That's why spending control isn't optional. It's essential. But let's be clear. This isn't about cutting out all joy. It's about spending with intention. Start by identifying your top 2 money drains. For most people, it's the same. Housing and transportation. Rent too high. Car too expensive. You're not just losing comfort. You're losing years of progress. Every $200 you overpay in rent isn't just $200. It's $200 that could have been invested and grown into $400, $600, or more. Living far from work to save on rent? Maybe. But if the commute costs your time, gas, and sanity, it's not a win. Balance matters. And cars? They're one of the biggest wealth traps. Monthly payment, insurance, gas, maintenance, repairs, depreciation. That flashy car might feel good today, but 5 years from now, it's worth half, and your wealth hasn't moved. The truth is, people waste fortunes trying to look successful, while those who are building wealth often drive modest cars, live in modest homes, and skip the noise. Like Charlie Munger said, spend less than you earn and always save something. In the early stages, that's your edge, not lifestyle, not status, discipline, because the dollars you don't spend now buy you time, freedom, and leverage later. And if you want to take it even further, it's time to talk about the most powerful move of all, your income. You can only cut so much, but earning? That's unlimited. At some point, no budget will save you if your income barely covers your basic needs. That's why earning more isn't a luxury, it's survival, especially in the early stages, when your contributions matter more than your returns, when your snowball is still small and every extra dollar gives it more weight. So how do you earn more without quitting your job or burning out? You build a second stream, not for lifestyle upgrades, not for weekend spending, but for one thing only, fueling your future. Here's the good news. It's never been easier to create extra income. You don't need an office or a team or a million followers. You need a skill and a little initiative. Are you good at writing, design, tutoring, coding, translating, editing videos? There's a market for it, and you can start small tonight. Platforms exist for freelancing, selling digital products, offering consulting, or teaching online. Don't want to show your face? You don't have to. Start a blog, sell a template, flip items on eBay or Facebook Marketplace, buy used, clean them up, and resell. Start simple, but start. Every extra $200, $500, or $1,000 a month is more than just income. It's acceleration. It shortens the timeline, widens the gap, builds the habit of ownership, not just consumption. And remember, this isn't forever. You don't have to hustle 24/7, you just need to push hard enough until the snowball starts rolling on its own. Once it does, you can scale back because your money keeps working. Extra income isn't just about making more, it's about becoming more capable, more resourceful, more free. And once you combine that income with everything else we've talked about, you'll feel the shift. Because suddenly, $100,000 isn't just a dream, it's a plan. Something strange happens at $100,000, not instantly, not with fireworks, but quietly and powerfully. It's the point where your money starts helping, not just sitting there, but pulling its weight. Because at this level, compound interest stops being a theory and becomes a force. A 10% return on $100,000? That's $10,000, the equivalent of a second income, without you lifting a finger. You didn't work overtime. You didn't take a second job. Your money did the job for you. And here's the best part. That $10,000, it gets reinvested. Now your new total is $110,000. And next year, it earns even more. This is the moment when you stop pushing the snowball and start steering it. It's not just math, it's momentum. But the shift doesn't stop with your net worth. It happens in your mind too. You stop thinking, how can I make more money? And start asking, how can I make what I already have work better? You stop seeing money as a reward and start seeing it as a tool, a system, a machine. And that mindset changes everything. Because now you're not just saving, you're designing. You don't panic over every dollar. You make calm, strategic moves. You automate, you optimize, you create structure. So the system works without you. That's what $100,000 gives you. Not freedom, but leverage. And once you feel it, you'll do whatever it takes to never go back. Because now you know, this game isn't about effort forever. It's about building a system that compounds. And that leads us to the final part, the shift that makes it all sustainable. By the time you reach $100,000, you've changed. Not just your bank account, but your identity. You're no longer someone chasing money. You've become someone building something. You stop thinking like a spender. You start thinking like an investor, a builder, a strategist. You don't see $100 as just a pair of shoes. You see it as a seed, one that could grow into $300, $500, $1,000. If you give it time, impulse spending starts to feel like sabotage, and patience begins to feel like power. You think differently. You ask better questions. Is this moving me forward? Is this expense worth the delay in freedom? What's the long-term echo of this choice? You stop envying people who look rich and start respecting people who stay rich, because you realize it's not about flashy wins, it's about quiet momentum. And that momentum is fragile, it needs protection. So you build systems, you automate habits, you reduce friction, you eliminate distractions, you remove the need for willpower by building architecture. That's the real secret of the wealthy. They don't try harder, they design better. And once that structure is in place, you don't just build wealth, you become the kind of person who can keep it. You stop asking, can I do this? And start asking, how far can this go? And that's the shift that changes everything. So why is saving your first $100,000 so hard? Because it's the part where effort feels endless and progress feels invisible. But it's also the part where everything is being built. Your discipline, your habits, your financial muscle, your mindset. Once you cross that threshold, your money stops needing you every day. It starts running on its own, quietly, consistently, compounding. But here's the truth. Most people never get there. Not because they're lazy, not because they're bad with money, but because they give up in the silent part. Before momentum kicks in, before the curve bends, before the identity shift happens. But you don't have to quit. Start now. Cut the noise. Kill the debt. Invest consistently. Earn more. Spend with purpose. Because every small step adds weight to your snowball. And one day, you'll check your account and realize it happened. Quietly. Without applause. Without a miracle. You crossed the line, and the game is different now. So if this video helped clarify the path, like and subscribe for more stories that reveal how money really works. And tell us in the comments, what's been your biggest challenge on the road to $100,000? Let's make this a space for real strategies, not just motivation. And remember, every dollar you save today is a silent worker that never clocks out.